I've been out for years now, but prison still clings to me like the smell of bleach that never leaves your clothes. I told myself I wouldn't write about this, but it chews at me every night, and maybe putting it here will make it quieter. I was locked up for a stupid armed robbery gone wrong, not violent by nature, just desperate and dumb. I expected to pay with lost time, not with my sanity. The first week they transferred me into that cell, the air already smelled wrong like damp mop water and something sour. My new cellmate was sitting cross-legged on the bunk, staring at the wall like it had secrets written on it. He looked up slow, smiled polite, and said, "Name's Leonard." The guards called him Graves, inmate number 78,291, but I learned real quick, nobody said his name too loud. The whispers came later. That's the Cannibal. At first I thought it was prison rumor, the kind of bullshit guys spread to keep others away. But the way other inmates kept their distance, the way guards avoided eye contact with him, made it sink in. That first night I woke to the sound of chewing. I thought maybe he had hidden food, but when I asked what he was eating, he whispered, "Memories keep their flavor." I pressed my face into the concrete wall and tried to ignore the sound, but my skin crawled like ants were under it. The next morning at chow, Leonard asked me, casual as hell, "You think ribs cook better slow or fast?" He said it like small talk, the way you'd ask about the weather. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe he was joking, but he just stared at my arms when I picked up my tray. Weeks went by and he wasn't violent, just unsettling. He kept meticulous notes in his head about cuts of meat, talking about marveling and tenderness like a butcher. When the lights flickered at night, he'd murmur about how shadows stretched bodies in ways that made him hungry. I started losing sleep, lying awake with the sound of his breathing too close, too steady. The cell stank of sweat, disinfectant, and something faintly rotten that never seemed to wash away. The guards didn't care. Complaints about smells or noises meant nothing in there. I tried to switch cells, but the CO just smirked and said, "Do your time like everyone else." Word got around quick about who my cellmate was. Some guys looked at me with pity, others with amusement, like they were waiting to see if I'd break. Leonard liked the attention. He'd walk the tiers, smiling like he was on stage. At night, he whispered through the bars to guys passing by, telling them recipes, asking what they'd serve with fresh. Most ignored him, some laughed nervously, but nobody told him to shut up. I noticed he always stared too long at people's necks, like he was memorizing veins. Sometimes he'd sit inches from me on the bunk, describing the difference between raw and cooked textures. His voice was calm, steady, almost soothing like a teacher explaining history. That made it worse because it sounded so damn normal.
Appetite shrank.
Chow time became another nightmare, because I kept hearing him compare slop to organs. The guards didn't notice my tray going back full. My weight dropped fast, bones sticking sharp under my jumpsuit. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured him leaning over me. One night I woke up to find him sitting on the floor, staring at me without blinking. He said, "You twitch when you dream, like a rabbit." My throat went dry and I didn't move until the lights came up. Days blended together. The walls sweated damp, the ceiling dripped rust, and Leonard hummed while sharpening a pencil against the floor. That sound ate at me, the scrape of graphite becoming like a saw in my head. He told me once that prison was like a pantry, locked, stocked, and waiting. I laughed nervously again, but my stomach churned. He leaned in and sniffed the air near my shoulder, saying, "Stress makes the meat sour." I couldn't shake that. Every movement I made, I wondered if he was measuring me. The guards ignored everything. They hated us equally, and a cellmate's weirdness wasn't their problem. Nights stretched into torture. I'd count drips from the leaky pipe just to stay awake. But exhaustion always won, and when I dozed, his whisper would cut through. I could take a bite and no one would know. I started begging for solitary just to escape him, but the CO laughed, said it was full. Rumors spread again. Guys told me stories about what Leonard had done before. He said he lured people in, fed them dinner, then served them to others without telling them. I don't know how much was true, but every version ended the same. He ate them. I started seeing myself in those stories. Every time he licked his lips, I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. He asked once if I knew my own weight. I said no. He smiled and said, "You look like you'd roast easy." I stopped showering at the same time as him, refused to turn my back. The bathroom smelled of mildew and iron, and I'd rush through, ears straining for his footsteps. I told myself I was overreacting, but then I caught him running his tongue over his teeth when he looked at me. Other inmates said, "You're haunted, man. Don't let him see it." But I couldn't hide it. Paranoia bled through my skin. My hands shook, my voice cracked, and I jumped at shadows. Leonard noticed everything. He'd smile and say, "Fear season's better than salt." Sleep deprivation made walls ripple, edges blur, but his face never blurred. Always clear, always watching. Some nights he'd describe in detail how to cut muscle without rupturing veins. He'd trace lines on his own arm like a butcher's map. My mind started echoing those words when I looked at myself. I imagined my body as sections, portions, cuts. I hated myself for it, but prison erases boundaries. One night, I finally snapped. I shouted at him to shut the hell up. He didn't yell back, didn't move. He just smiled and whispered, "Now you taste alive." The silence after was worse than the whispers. Weeks dragged. My ribs showed. My eyes sank. And every glance from him hollowed me more. Even the guards started noticing, asking if I was sick. I nodded but didn't explain. What could I say that my cellmate was eating me piece by piece without touching me? The chow hall smelled of grease and bleach, but even there, I couldn't escape his voice in my head. I chewed bread and it tasted like flesh. I drank water and it tasted like blood. I begged silently every night for transfer, parole, anything. Instead, months kept stacking. One morning, Leonard leaned close and whispered, "Don't worry. I'm patient. Meat tenderizes with time." My hands shook so bad I couldn't hold my cup. I started scratching my arms raw, trying to feel control of my own skin. The scars made him smile wider. He told me once, "The best cuts are the ones you carve yourself." That broke something in me. When release finally came, I walked out pale, thin, and hollow-eyed, but free. The guards joked about how I survived the Cannibal suite, like it was some sick badge of honor. But there was nothing honorable in what he left inside me. I left prison, but I never left him.